We're live, and Danielle Moody is trying to find her core. She's from an undisclosed place right now. She will eventually come home to America, but I told her, Danielle, just stay where you are right now because things in America ain't looking too good. She as soon as we pressed live, she had to go find a cord.
I don't know why you had to press live until I came back.
It was already pressed live, and then it takes 15 seconds, and then that's when you said, "Oh, I'll be back in a second." And I'm right as you left, it was live. I'm like, "Of course."
Of
First and
course it
foremost,
is.
I hope everyone has enjoyed their weekend. Secondly, allow me to be petty and just have some good news for myself for a second. My 49ers beat the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia, and that's good for America. And with that, I want to start off with this quote, this tweet that I read yesterday by our good friend Shannon Watts, and
Uh-huh.
I want Danielle's response to this tweet because I think this is on point. And people who say she's being hyperbolic, I don't think they're paying attention. And if you want me to prove her tweet, I will. This is the tweet. She said it yesterday. I'm going to quote you, Shannon Watts.
What's this stuff?
The Nazis had access to social media, advanced surveillance technology, and millions of military grade weapons. We're about to find out. Your response, Daniel.
I mean, my response is this, like, she's absolutely right. This is where we are. I think that anybody that thought for any amount of time that people who were making the Nazi comparisons were hyperbolic, we are being proven right? Like, I don't know why people need to see hoods in order for folks to understand that Klan ideology, Nazi sentiments are embodied woven the foundation of this entire regime. They have made no qualms about it. When you have Kristi Noem following the murder of an American mother who then stands at a podium with a sign that says, one of them, one of us, all of you, and that being something that is a pervasive sentiment, which means that guess what? Your government is no longer actually working for you. Your government sees you as separate and apart from, and not only separate and apart from, but they also see you as the enemy. So when we are dealing inside of a situation like that, where Donald Trump, before he became president, before he was attacking Barack Obama for being a Muslim, from not being from this country, show me your birth certificates. Donald Trump had been sued multiple times in New York City for denying Black and brown people access to his apartment buildings, right? Like, he wouldn't rent to Black and brown people. They had a signifier that said colored, and then they would cross out your application. So we have known, anybody with sense has known that Donald Trump is a racist. So I don't understand why we always have to pretend and do this mental gymnastics that expresses otherwise. Oh, racially tinged, oh, racially whatever. They're fucking Nazis, and they have been. So I don't understand, like, why we don't get that.
Well, I think the reason why we don't get that is because if we actually acknowledge it, we have to confront it. And this country would do anything except confront the fact that its two enduring sins, I would say probably three enduring sins, are white supremacy, capitalism, and misogyny. And Donald Trump represents all three. He is the, if you will, inevitable end result of those three sins that have never been confronted in America, mixed in with, of course, celebrity and fame. And for those who think, okay, maybe Danielle and Waj are going too far with this neo-Nazi white supremacist analogy, allow me to retort. The Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Labor, their official Twitter sites for the last couple of months, and we have mentioned this on the Left Hook and Damn Digest and Democracy-ish, have openly promoted neo-Nazi white supremacist sentiment, words, and phrases. The Department of Homeland Security has three times now promoted the word remigrate. Remigrate is only a word, Danielle, used in white supremacist circles,
Yep.
which means ethnic cleansing of all Black and brown people from Europe and America. You still have that tweet up or that post up where you see a big wave coming, right? And they said we're going to deport 50 to 60 million people, and Trump liked that tweet at that post. I think he still has that post up, and the rest of us are like, wait a minute, there's about 11 to 15 million undocumented immigrants. What do you
Hmm.
mean by 50 to 60 million? Then you got the Department of Labor, with the stars of the Confederacy around Abraham Lincoln's head. You had another post a couple of days ago using the same language that is used by white nationalists: culture, heritage, right? ICE is doing a war recruitment, specifically seeking people in these right wing militia spaces, right, to protect the homeland and your heritage and your culture. Uh, where do you think all the Proud Boys went? Where do you think all the Oath Keepers have gone? Where do you think all the neo Nazis are? Masked armed ICE agents, right, with guns now given a $50,000 bonus. I'll give a few more if you think this is not enough proof for you. Donald Trump quoted Hitler last October and said, I'm going to unleash the military and National Guard against the enemy of the people. He quoted Hitler again and said, why are these immigrants poisoning our blood? The young Republican leaders, there's 2,900 pages of their 2,900, not 29, not 2.9, 2,900 pages of Telegram text where they praise Hitler, promote white supremacy. Nick Fuentes loves Hitler, says Hitler is based. They love him. And then finally, this is just top of my head, Daniel. 2 weeks ago, Coast Guard was instructed to
Hmm.
downgrade the swastika, the hood, and the Confederate flag from a hate
And the
symbol
noose. And the noose.
on the noose to a, what was it? Not a hate symbol, but like, like a potentially they tried twice.
Potentially divisive.
They tried twice to downgrade the noose, Confederate flag, and the swastika. So now you look at what's happening with ICE, the literal wartime, their words, folks, wartime recruitment, spending millions of dollars, going to the most fringe right wing places, telling them to, hey, we're at war. Going back to Danielle's point, wartime recruitment. Last time I saw, ICE ain't sitting there friggin' going after drug dealers. They're going after pedophiles. They're not going after Epstein's friends. They're going after Renee Nicole Good, an unarmed white woman. So they have unleashed the word we've been using on Democracy Ish, the Gestapo against us.
I mean, when you go back to Donald Trump on the debate stage, and this is in the first term. This is before the first term, when he was asked to denounce white
Yeah.
supremacist groups. He was
I
given an opportunity not once, not twice, but three times at that debate to denounce white supremacist groups. He told them to stand back and stand by.
2020.
They are, first off, they already had a pipeline into this regime of white nationalists who Donald Trump, 1,600 of whom he pardoned, right? Then before that, the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and whatever other white nationalist groups had already endorsed him, right? And so when you look, and of course, because I blame multiple administrations over this, white nationalism has never been codified as domestic terrorism, and it has never been investigated at the lengths that you have heard the FBI investigating Black extremist organizations, right? And this is across administrations, right? Knowing good goddamn well that the Obama administration kicked reports on the rise of white nationalism because it was seen as politically divisive, as a, as opposed to making it a key that if a majority of Americans want a multiracial democracy, then this is one of the ways in which we root out, right, all of the obstacles to formulating that, which are these terrorist organizations. So my feeling around this is that we are always on the losing side, and I mean we as in progressives, when we have to engage in argument where I have to convince you of other people's racism. I am then wasting time in figuring out how we maneuver around, through, and above that kind of shit. If I'm having to use all my time and energy in saying, this is racist. Don't you know that that's racist? Donald Trump's a white nationalist. Don't you know what he said? Like, blah, blah. Like, I feel like we are constantly doing that and then actually not combating the real issue and problem, which is the fact that more Americans, more white Americans, more Latino Americans, some Black Americans were readily aligned with this white nationalist ideology because it fit a narrative for them, because they thought that the proximity was going to keep them safe. They thought that they would be considered the good ones. They could be kept as the house Negroes. They could be protected in some form or fashion as the pet of white supremacy. And so, like, I think that in the space that we are in, if we are talking about saving people's lives, we can't continue to have we can't continue to like call out every single thing as opposed to what is the organized action we need to take against it. And I think that that is how they have won the narrative war.
Danielle, they're saying, and I can hear it too, your volume is a little bit too high. If you can reduce the volume
Okay,
a bit,
let me
kick it
reduce
down
it.
a little, little bit. It's a
Did
hot mic. Yeah, and folks, let us know if that helps you. That's a really good callback to 2020, where it was the presidential debate, Danielle. I just remembered it right now, where he was asked three times, Donald Trump, to condemn white supremacy was by Chris Wallace. And he refuses, 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 and says, stand back and stand by. And then what happened on January 6th is that the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and their leaders were there very explicitly because they wrote about it, said it, for an insurrection against a free and fair election against this country. And several of those people were convicted on seditious conspiracy, sedition, and they were pardoned. And it's all projection all the time because now Pete Hegseth is accusing Mark Kelly and others who actually served and were heroes and didn't rape women like him of sedition because they're reminding those who serve that you are obligated to disobey illegal orders. Because what we know, when there are, inshallah, well, it's the United States of America. I said when there are trials, there are probably going to be no trials. They're all going to fail up. But I do think a Democrat has to run on accountability. If there are ever trials, and there better be trials, damn it, there better be a reckoning, there better be accountability. I want a fighter. If a Democrat, I have these litmus tests now. If a Democrat is unwilling to run on accountability, if he's unwilling, he or she is unwilling to say, I'm going to hold these people responsible, I'm going to investigate them, they're not the Democrat for me. Because what we're going to see, going back to your point, is this, if you will, this pass, this forever pass, where we didn't have a reckoning about the Civil War, racist, traitorous losers, no reckoning. Instead, oh, they're white like us. Can we all just get along? He looks like my Uncle Chet. Sure, he says the N-word and has a Confederate flag, but he goes to church, Danielle, and he makes a really nice burger, and he's good to my niece. Who doesn't love Uncle Chet? Don't we all have a racist uncle? And that's kind of my analogy how America
No,
feels.
no, we actually all don't have a racist uncle.
Yeah, we don't have a racist uncle who wears the hood and has a swastika tattoo and wants to rape women. I'm sorry. And this is the problem of white America. White America, which has always been in power, right? If you look at the power, the wealth, the money, gave a pass to the Confederates. They gave a pass to Robert E. Lee. They gave a pass to Jefferson Davis. Oh, can we all just get along? Come on now. Let's hug it out, right? And what happened? While they gave them the pass, while there was no reckoning, the South then had the lost cause. They had their grievance narrative, right? And they've been nurturing it for nearly 200 years, to the point where in this country, folks, there are statues and monuments named after two racist, traitorous losers. Losers. People like Jefferson Davis and Robert E. Lee. That's the joke. Can you imagine? Well, what it would take for me and Danielle to have statues named after us, we would have to create statues. And then they would be the one statue. Here's the
But
founder of statues, Danielle and Waj. And then we'd be surrounded by Robert E. Lee and Donald Trump statues.
here's the thing, and tell me, because I'm like trying to speak at a level tone. Here's the thing. We're in this situation right now because the Confederacy was never held accountable
Yeah, of
for
course.
the Civil War, right? Like, we have to understand that had we held the OG racists accountable for the slave trade had we not made compromises on the backs of Black people and then created the structure now known as Jim Crow, which is what Donald Trump and this regime are absolutely, with their South Africans that they have in tow, trying to create a nuanced Jim Crow 2.0, is that like accountability is what has scarred America since the beginning of time, because we have always refused to hold power accountable. And the thinking, the logic behind that, you see in the sloth, the useless sack of skin that I call Merrick Garland,
Oh yeah.
because the desire has always been about perception rather than the authenticity of the thing. It has always been like, oh, look, America, we're not a banana republic because we don't put our presidents on trial, because like we don't have coups and we have successful elections. Well, how successful is your country if you have a criminal as a president, as we did with Nixon, and he gets to walk away scot-free with a pension, protection, and like his name relatively intact? We didn't hold Nixon accountable so that Trump could be born. Trump is a Frankenstein of the Confederacy and the Nixon years, right? Like, and then sprinkle in a little Bush and Dick Cheney with weapons of mass destruction. We have had liars and criminals as our presidents, and they have never been held accountable because America has always wanted to rock with the perception that we are the beacon on the hill, when the hill, the light, was actually a fucking alarm that had been going off, that we should have been paying attention to all of these decades. We're here because of the lack of accountability and this idea that white men are infallible. That's why we are here. And we're going to continue to ride this fucking wave to the end of the American empire because we are so hell bent on holding on to the fantasy rather than actually working tirelessly to preserve the reality and with the accountability that we've wanted.
No, I was thinking about this last night randomly. I was thinking about just accountability, and I remember I posted something on Blue Sky, specifically relating to the fact that any Democrat who's unwilling to run on accountability is not the leader that we need or we deserve. And then someone said, "That's past looking. Look at the future." And I wanted to respond to that, but that comment on Blue Sky just stuck with me because I'm like, no, your refusal and this country's refusal to confront the past and hold it accountable sets up for this to happen again and again and again. White
Yep.
supremacy and greed. 2009, they're too big to fail. So let's
Yep.
reward the same criminal fraudsters and the one percenters and their institutions that literally got us into the worst recession since the Great Depression. All those people failed, though. I think only one or two people went to jail, like these minor fish. And one of them was a South Asian. All the rest were advising Obama, right? Here, I come from the same institution that just screwed over people. Let me now help create the policy that will help my friends in the same institution that screwed the people. That's what happened, folks.
That's
And
but
then to
that's
look,
that's the rinse and repeat of Washington. That right there is the rinse and repeat of Washington. That is the incestuous bubble that you talk about all the time. They go to the same parties, they screw each other's wives, they go to the same country clubs, and it's this rinse and repeat. Like, oh, I'm not going to really hold you accountable, big bank, because if I do, then guess what? I'm not going to get the money funneled into my PAC that is coming to me from your corporation that I need in order to run. So it is a consistent rinse and repeat. And then I let the people that want deregulation set the regulations.
and so it's a big system. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. White supremacy, capitalism, just like this, and they will never change the system. And folks, I know people don't like hearing it, but I think there's enough facts now where actually, Danielle, what is comforting is when you and I used to say this a couple of months ago. We always used to get some pushback, on social media or in the comment section. Why are you guys so angry at the Democrats? You guys are being divisive. Vote blue no matter who.
Yes.
Thankfully, if you've noticed now, a lot of those folks are like, wait a second, you might be onto something because I think they've seen what happened with Zoran Mamdani. They've seen what happened with these moderates who completely caved, and now healthcare subsidies. Well, we're going to talk about that, but look at these moderate centrist Democrats paid by the airline industry who caved in the government shutdown. They looked at the fact that Merrick Garland did his job. Merrick Garland was put there to help the institutions, did his job. They've seen now that Renee Good, an unarmed white woman who looks like them, can be shot and killed. And like, wait a second, it's a big club, and I don't think the rest of us are in it. And you're right. Some of these Democrats are useless. Some of these moderate centrists are actually not helping us. In fact, we should cull them. We should get rid of them. We should purge them. And folks, this is my fear. It's always been my fear. I said, and I've said before, and I've tweeted it, and I've said it on TV, Donald Trump will never, ever, 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 ever see the inside of a jail. Never, ever. He could just shoot he could take a gun right now and just kill people. He will never see the inside of a jail because we gave a slap on the wrist to the traitors, because we let Richard Nixon ride, because we do nothing when it comes to accountability for the war criminals who led us into the war on terror, because all these presidents came and praised Dick Cheney, who should have been in The Hague, by the way, right? Never, ever he's going to spend a single day in jail. So this is why we need reformation, not restoration. And I know people might not like hearing this, but Biden and also a lot of the establishment Democrats like Gavin Newsom and others, you must open your eyes and listen to your ears. It's going to be the same old, folks. Gavin Newsom, when he was asked, do you want to tax the wealthy? He said, it's a big club. It's a big tent.
No, he
Specifically,
said it was a big tent. Right. Yeah.
he said it was, quote, big tent. Do you think Chuck Schumer, remember a couple of days ago, you all saw Chuck Schumer hugging Marco Rubio, smiling with him as they have illegally invaded Venezuela, as little Marco talks about taking out Cuba, as they have threatened Mexico, as they have literally sided with Russia over Ukraine, as they keep giving billions of dollars to Israel for its genocide, and as he has praised ICE agents knocking the skulls of not just brown and black people, but also white folks. And Chuck Schumer is sitting there with the cameras around him, giving him a hug and smiling, and then Chuck Schumer sitting there in the summer, smiling and hugging war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu, and Chuck Schumer throwing in March. Remember in March when there was another potential shutdown, throwing the entire Democratic Party under the bus because he got a phone call from Wall Street and said, "Hey, hey, hey! If you shut down the government, that's bad for business." Do you think these Democrats will hold these people accountable? I say no, which is why, Danielle, I'm all in. If you're a Democrat that is running for higher office and you are not for abolish ICE and you're not for holding these, just say it. We will have investigations. We will hold these people accountable. I will try to put Stephen Miller and Chrissy Nome in jail for crimes against humanity. Just say this, just potentiify it. If they're unwilling to say these two things, abolish ICE, we will hold this administration accountable. I'm done with them. I'm not going to vote for them. I'm not going to
I mean,
support them.
but
I'm done.
the vote blue, no matter who, is how we got Fetterman, right? Like, that's how you got John Fetterman. You have these people that come out there that speak a lot of bullshit, that say a lot of things, and they're like, oh, I'm a Democrat, but, I'm fiscally this, or I'm this, that, and the other thing. It's like, no. And people say, well, they would say to you, Waj, don't have a purity test. We can't have a purity test. We can't have any Republican, in office. And I say, if you do not believe in the fundamental principles of humanity and civility, which ICE is absolutely and completely against, and you can't say now abolish ICE as if it's the fucking Mount Rushmore, it's not. It hasn't been around forever. It's been around for like 2 fucking decades, right?
Right.
Like, so if you can easily get rid of the Department of Education, which they have, then you can absolutely say that we don't need an immigration enforcement agency that is primarily targeted at like humiliating, degrading, beating, shooting, and killing people. Like, how do you look at what they have done? If not just the past fucking week, but let us be clear that over 40 people were killed in 2025 by ICE, right? We are talking about 2 people, Keith Porter and Renee Good, that were killed in 2026, and we are 12 days into 2026, and they have been killed. You have a pastor today who was just Aaron Farnez right before we went live. I was looking at one of his videos, and there's a white pastor who was thrown in the back of of an ICE vehicle, had a gun pointed in his face, and they said, "Are you scared yet?" And he said, "No." And they said, "Well, it wouldn't be any fun killing you because you're white." Right,
Oh,
like this is
I
like
remember that.
and this is up right now on Aaron's page. The interview is being given by this pastor. There's another woman, a white woman, who was just thrown to the ground, beaten up, and they said, "Didn't you learn from us killing that fucking bitch in
I saw
Minnesota?"
that.
Right. So it is evident, it is clear as day who ICE is, who Donald Trump has recruited, who he continues to recruit into this Gestapo. So if you are running for any type of fucking office and you can't articulate with your full fucking throat and chest that ICE should be abolished, then you have no business being in anybody's elected office. Period. Period. And so for me, I'm like, Hakeem Jeffries needs to be primary. Chuck Schumer needs to be primary. Every single establishment Democrat that has stood in the way of progress and has enabled Donald Trump to this place needs to be done with. Primaried, culled, erased from the political sphere.
Because think about it, folks. If you are a Democrat, and by the way, it's this month, right? Funding for DHS is up right now, and Chuck Schumer still wants to fund them. So just think about this.
Yep.
You want to fund a ragtag group of armed psychopaths who are masked, operating with impunity, who are now breaking the law, essentially ramming into cars, going anywhere they want, promoting neo Nazi slogans, going against their own protocol. You're not supposed to discharge a weapon at a fleeing vehicle, and especially at an unarmed woman. He did that. You have the president of the United States, Kristi Noem, and the entire right wing celebrating the murder of an unarmed white mom who had just dropped off her kid, and she was in her, I think, station wagon or SUV, and her final words were, "I'm not mad at you, dude." And this guy who was not hit at all in any way, shape, or form takes out his gun, shoots her 3 times, calls her an effing B, calmly walks over to her, sees that he kills her, calmly walks to his car and drives away, and they're celebrating him. And mocking her and villainizing her in death. And you're telling me, as a Democrat, you want me and Danielle to keep funding that agency, and you support that group that has openly declared war against the rest of us, and not just us anymore, white women. I'm saying this very specifically, very deliberately, because this country values white skin more than me and Dan. 1,000 Danielles and Wadges can be killed. No one's going to care. You kill 5 white women, this country might have riots. Might. Especially if white America gets pissed off enough. But, it's white women. This country also is misogynist, right? But 5 whites is worth like 1,000 Danielles and Wadges, right? I'm just keeping it real. So I think you see a lot of white America now reacting so viscerally to that video is because, like, oh my God, she, you saw Philip Bloom. I think that's his name. He was a former Washington Post reporter. We talked about it last week when he was on MS. He starts crying. And what did he say? He said, he she looked like my wife. It reminded me of my
Yep.
family, right? And so now white people are seeing themselves being called domestic terrorists. They're seeing themselves being called radical leftists. They're seeing their priests getting shot in the face. They're seeing their elders, being thrown to the ground. They're seeing their women killed. And the rest of us are saying this is what has been happening to black and brown folks. This is what has been happening to indigenous folks and Muslim folks. Now you got to wake up. So if that Democratic Party is telling you we got to support these guys who are straight up cracking skulls and killing white women and supporting neo-Nazi slogans. Danielle,
Look,
I mean,
2 weeks ago, not even 2 weeks ago, because what are we in it? We invaded Venezuela last week. Last week, Hakeem Jeffries was asked whether or not he was going to factor in the fact that the world is saying this was an illegal act, a war crime, factor that into continuing funding for the Pentagon. And he said, we're not going to consider it in the budget. How? How do you not consider that? How do you not consider the fact that you are literally using our tax dollars to kill us? And you don't think that now is the time for a reevaluation? Like now is the time that you can send, because this whole time when we have been saying, and by we I mean black people and I mean brown people, when we have been saying defund the police, this was the shit that we were talking about. Because before there was ICE, there are regular law enforcement that killed Tamir Rice, that killed Sandra Bland, that killed Trayvon Martin, that you can run down the list of hashtags, whether they be police or white vigilantes that were allowed to be treated like police, as George Zimmerman were. So when we were talking about defunding the police, this was the shit that we were talking about, because the police don't stop crimes and they don't fucking solve crimes, right? And so we have to understand that all of these things that have been put in place have are based on racism. They're based on slave code. They're based on, all of our policies are based in these things. And then you want to tell us that, oh, but Democrats, like, they need to be seen as tough on crime because tough on crime now looks like shooting American moms.
And Danielle, lack of accountability. Lack of accountability. And listen to JD Vance. He lied, by the way. He said this officer has absolute immunity. Return your law degree, bro, to Yale Law School. Look what they're saying. They have absolute immunity. First, that's incorrect. I want everyone to know that. There absolutely is no such thing as absolute immunity for an ICE agent to murder people, right? They are covering it up. They're giving this law enforcement, this Nazi with a badge, absolute immunity to go kill people, which is what used to happen in America, in the South, even in the North, during segregation, even after segregation. Sundown laws. If you're a black and brown body, specifically black body, but they couldn't tell the difference, and you were in some towns, literally after the sun went down, they would hunt you, they would lynch you, and the people who would lynch you oftentimes were connected to law enforcement, which is why Rage Against the Machine has that great line. Some of those that work forces were the same that burned crosses. The intersection of law enforcement with white supremacy. No accountability, absolute immunity, given a pass for the same type of behavior again and again and again, which is why it's not all cops, it's not all law enforcement, but many people of color, they have made the link between white supremacy and the badge. White supremacy, the use of violence against black and brown bodies without any accountability whatsoever, given absolute immunity. You saw it happen literally last week where JD Vance said it. And this time, the body was not a black boy or a black woman, it was a white woman. So now, exactly as someone said, they have been given free reign, a green light to hunt all of us. And for those, this is a smart crowd. The slogans they're using, they're neo-Nazi slogans: reclaim our homeland, heritage, culture. They're aggressively, folks who joined us late, December 30th or December 29th, The Guardian had a piece, but there's several pieces. Go check it out. ICE has spent millions of dollars in recruitment. Last time I checked, they got 12,000 new recruits, specifically from the fringes of the right wing. Literally, like, think about these type of psychopathic incel cosplay crusaders who are like overweight, not trained whatsoever. Like, hey, you want to go hunt minorities and crack skulls and kill liberals? You think we're at a war? You want to reclaim your homeland? Cool. Here's a gun and $50,000 and a mask. Go
And
shoot.
47 days of training, because remember that they cut the amount of time that was actually used to train. They also got rid of, the horrible constraints of like a psychological fucking, review of these people to see if they were batshit fucking crazy. And I think that that is a perk, not a glitch in the system. If you
Can I
say
add this,
these
Danielle?
things.
I just found this. Sorry, I just wanted to add this. Someone asked Homeland Security, January 3rd. Can I just read this real quick, and I'll give it back to you? Pardon me. ICE announces historic 120% manpower increase, hiring more than 12,000 officer, doubling in size. That's from last week, the new year. Sorry, Danielle.
Correct. And what have I said? I've said this on the Danielle Moody Show. I've said it on Democracy-ish, and I'm going to say it again right now. When you create the conditions to destabilize the economy. When joblessness goes through the roof, and then the only employer becomes the federal government in the way of trade in your values and your integrity, and maybe we'll help you put food on the table, that is how you create the army that you need, because there aren't any other options. You eliminate all of the other options, and the only way that you survive is to become part of the empire, to become part of the cog in the machine. So folks have to also understand that the economic instability that this administration is creating on purpose isn't just about their Bitcoin billions. It is also about the fact that if you stamp out all other pathways to success, right, then you only have but one avenue.
Yeah, you become a stormtrooper. You either join them and crack skulls, you fight them and get killed, or you hide and be complicit and feed the other minorities to them. It's just like a rung from the ladder. Oh, hey, take the blacks, take the undocumented, take the trans. Oh shoot, I only have three rungs left. Take the Muslims. Oh shoot, I only have two rungs. Take the Jews, and there's one rung left, and then they come for you. That's what happens, folks. We are dealing with it in real time. It's on now. It is. This is no like, oh, will this happen? Nope, nope, nope. If you've been watching Democracy Ish, we have spent the last Danielle, how long have we been talking? 3 years, 3.5 years?
I think like 4 years. I don't even know at
Oh yeah,
this
I don't
point.
even know. We Now listen. It isn't because we're Danielle's brilliant. I'm not brilliant. It's just because we pay attention, and we see America from a different lens, and as such, that lens allows us a more panoramic perspective of this country. We don't buy the bullshit, right? And that allows us to critique both the Republicans and the Democrat and the establishment. And so we have seen these, if you will, patterns for the past 10 years, which is why we have warned. We've used the words before it was fashionable when we were accused of being, what do they call us? TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. We said fascism, authoritarianism, white nationalism, neo Nazis, white supremacy, unfettered capitalism, right? He won't leave. He won't leave. He won't leave. They're like, and I'm telling you straight up, I was talking to Danielle right before we press play, excuse me, record. And I said, Danielle, you know, uh, what do we get for being right? And like Danielle's like nothing. We'll still get hated.
Nothing.
Yeah, we'll still get hated. And that's the funny thing. They look at how this country rewards. I mean, going back to what you said, it's a big
Hmm.
club for powerful, rich, wealthy white men and a few white women. This country, Democrats would rather bear hug and verbally fillet Liz Cheney for being right on one thing that actually embrace the own activists within their parties whose batting average has been like 750 or 800. And they still say you're freaks and you're weirdos and you're extreme. Ugh, Liz Cheney, let me make love to you. Andrew Cuomo, let me fillet you. You, Zoran Mamdani, that's disgusting, right? And we got a participation prize. Thank you. The participation prize is that we don't end up in the camps. That's the win.
I mean, well, here's hoping.
Yeah. Look at Zoran Mamdani. Think about this, Danny. I was thinking about this. Zoran Mamdani, there's these videos now. Zoran Mamdani and Hochul made an announcement last week that they're gonna go for affordable childcare,
Free child care
free childcare.
for 2 years and under.
And you saw New Yorkers say, hey man, this is awesome. Like I saw this video by a woman. She's like, this will save my family $36,000.
Hmm.
Zoran Mamdani, young white woman. She goes, this will save, because she's a mom, this will save my family $36,000. She says, Zoran Mamdani made a promise. He came in. It's been like less than a month, and he tried to keep his
Less
promise.
than
Now
a month. He did it in a week. He did it in a week.
I want to ask you this, Daniel. What stops the other Democrats from doing this? And my answer in my brain immediately was they don't want the system to change. They
No.
like this system. It
Yes.
benefits them. He did it in a
Correct.
week, as Danielle said. He said, I'm going to do it. He got power. This is what I like about Mamdani. I'm going to throw it to you, but I give credit to Republicans about this. All right, just wait for it. When they have power, they flex. When they have power, they don't give an F. They're like, stop me. why can't Democrats do that? But, not the illegal shit and the racist shit. But, why can't, when they get power, say, I'm going to flex? Mamdani got power. He said, I'm going to do it. And think about it. I was thinking about it, Danielle, I think 2 nights ago. I was like, what has kept Democrats from ever doing this? They
Because
choose not to do it.
they benefit monetarily from the status quo. Because if I shoot my donors in the hand, the ones that are giving me all of the money, the corporate donors, big pharma, big oil, big ag, if I say no, then I don't get that money, which means that then I'm really truly beholden to the people, right? I'd rather, if I'm a politician, be beholden to a handful, maybe 10 of my big donors rather than 10,000 or 100,000 or a million of constituents that then I actually have to go knock on doors for. Zoran Mamdani is free to legislate in the way that he wants and has dragged Hochul along with him because guess who's more popular than Hochul? Right? Zoran Mamdani. So if Hochul wants to stay and wants to have a fighting chance for her reelection now that Elise Stefanik is out of the way because, or Stefanik is out of the way because she was going to run on the fact that Mamdani was taking over, New York City, and then Donald Trump bear hugs him. So now she lost all of her talking points. So she's out of the race. The only way that Hochul remains as governor and there isn't a swoop in of is that you align yourself with who's popular, with what's popular. That's how you save yourself. But my whole thing is, look, we also bear responsibility for why we have elected people that have allowed our lives to remain static. Right? That why we have been conditioned to settle for the bare minimum, right? Like if I'm able to pay my rent and pay my bills and maybe go out to a couple of nice dinners, then I guess all is well in the world, right? We never asked for more. We never looked at other countries because we were brainwashed into believing that America was giving us everything. They don't give us health care. They don't give us security. They don't give us, jobs that are higher in advancement. They don't give us quality education. They don't give us a lot of things. But we've literally been indoctrinated into believing that we shouldn't ask for much. Oh, look at those Europeans. My God, they take off a month in the summer like they're just lazy. I'm going to work until I'm dead so that my fucking tombstone reads, there lies Danielle. She never took a vacation. Isn't she amazing? Yeah, because she's fucking dead. Right? So like, again, we have been brainwashed into the believing that, we pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. The government isn't supposed to do anything, but you're paying the government, right? And what are they doing with your money? They're not giving it back to you. And they sure as fuck is not giving it back to you now, right? I asked my sister, I said, why the fuck are we paying taxes? Like in this regime, why the fuck in April, why are we paying taxes? What the fuck are we paying taxes for? Because our kids aren't getting an education. They just gutted the Department of Education. You're not getting your health care subsidies. So exactly what? You're not getting your roads fixed. You're not getting infrastructure built. So what exactly are we paying into? Oh, you're paying into a ballooned Pentagon and a militarized America so that they have golden batons that can beat the shit out of you. That's what you're paying into. And that's the type of shit that people need to start thinking about how they are being used and abused by both the Democratic Party and now this fascist regime, and what you're going to fucking do about it.
Amen. Pentagon has failed multiple audits, and yet we keep giving the military industrial complex all of our money. And now the military industrial complex, as we warned back in the day while we marched against the war on terror, would be turned and used against United States citizens. And now we have masked armed Gestapo members acting with complete impunity. And in fact, the vice president says they have absolute immunity to take out their guns and shoot white, unarmed moms in the face. What more do you need to see, folks? But there is something here that Daniel mentioned about the money. And speaking about the money, there was a big piece of news that dropped last night. I was awake. I'm sure you saw it. What I've always said is the only color that trumps the color white in America is the color green. This country worships money. We love money, right? In God we trust. It's in the dollar bill. The only thing that could perhaps make corporate America, the titans, the oligarchs, all these horrific people who have saddled up to Donald Trump, maybe slowly slither away from him is if it hurts their bottom line. And
Mhm.
yesterday, unprecedented, the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, releases a nearly 2-minute video looking straight at the camera. I think his audience was the Supreme Court and Wall Street and Democrats, and specifically the Silicon Valley bros. And he said essentially that the President of the United States is threatening criminal action against the federal chair because of funding for a building. But specifically, he said it's because essentially, and this was shots fired against Donald Trump, Powell is refusing to do the president's bidding when it comes to cutting interest rates. And Donald Trump has long tried to take control of the independence of the federal board. If you know, he also tried to fire, I believe her name was Lisa Cook, the competent
One
black
of the
woman.
governors.
And in a rare rebuke, and we talked about this briefly, the Supreme Court said you can't do that because, like I said, folks, even the Supreme Court, even the Silicon Valley bros, even Republicans realize, whoa. You go after the federal board, you go after Jerome Powell, you try to threaten them, you take away the independence, you unilaterally try to cut interest rates. Oh shit, this might end up like Turkey, where everything goes to hell. You can't mess with our dollar. That's volatile. That messes up our stocks. That messes up our business. That ain't good. And less than a day later, less than 24 hours later, some breaking news that I just saw as of 38 minutes ago. This is Mark Elias and Aaron Parnas. This is Mark Elias who says lawmakers, Danielle, from both parties and former U.S. monetary officials are sounding the alarm after federal chair Jerome Powell announced Sunday evening that Trump was attempting to pressure the central bank into cutting interest rates through threats of criminal prosecution. Danielle, he might have overreached. Trump is going after their money.
Look, here's the thing, because I respect Jerome Powell for doing a direct to camera and basically and saying unequivocally that Donald Trump is blackmailing and threatening me over renovations. Mind you, this man has now funneled in how much money into his bullshit ballroom, brought to you by Palantir, brought to you by Amazon, brought to you by fucking Tesla. So we are talking about the audacity here, number one. But aside from that, Thomas Tillis had already come out and said, I'm not voting for a fucking person to be brought on to the Federal Reserve. Not a chief, not a new governor, nobody. Because until this shit with the Department of Justice, which clearly is corrupt, I'm like, which is what he said, like, there is something going on with the Department of Justice that needs to be looked at. He's like, I'm not doing a damn thing, which means that they were going to be stalemated. Jerome Powell his term is up in May, and he can stay on as a governor of that body until 2028. He hasn't made any decisions as to what he's doing moving forward. But the fact of the matter is, we're talking about just a handful of months until May. So Donald Trump wasn't even willing to wait that time for his term to be done to then say, okay, I'm going to bring this person in. No, because this is, I'm telling, and you're right. This is when we have to remember that the people that are our current overlords are both fucking stupid and cruel. And both of these things can be true at the same time. They are in it for a smash and grab job. That's what they're doing. They're not thinking about the smash and grab. They're not thinking about the long-term consequences. Donald Trump is not thinking about the long-term stability of the dollar, the American economy. He's saying slash the interest rates so that he can lie to the American people and say, look how good our economy is. Inflation is down. And Powell is saying, I'm not looking at the fucking headlines. I'm actually going to look at the data. Right? The data is going to drive the decisions that I make, because I'm not looking for a quick fix, you fucking drug addicts. Because again, what did Susie Wiles say? Alcoholics mentality. Donald Trump, when it comes to our economy, wants a quick hit, another sip, another sip. That's what he is about. It has nothing to do with the long-term health, because they don't care about the long term.
Be
right? And
careful.
that's the other thing that we have to understand, that everything, like, we're thinking this regime is going to last forever. They're not even thinking they're going to last forever. They're thinking about how much they can get, how much they can protect themselves in the short term, because they know that eventually this shit is going to crash and fucking burn.
And the only thing I'll add to you is it's not just the economy; it's his foreign policy as well. As we have learned from Olivia Troy and Miles Taylor and others, when it comes to Greenland, Miles said he was in the room in the first Trump administration. He literally saw Greenland, saw it was there, wanted it, saw it was big and shiny, said I wanted it, and then everyone else had to come up with a proposal to get Greenland. And that's when the remoras come in and say, "Oh, we can ride this dumb mother effer and we can get use him for our aims." Stephen Miller is the most powerful unelected individual on earth right now who realizes full well Donald Trump is an insatiable, venal, fickle, weak, dying, perhaps partially demented individual. He knows what to say to him, and he's writing him right now for his white nationalist agenda. Russell Vought is writing him for his white Christian nationalist agenda. All the Silicon Valley bros and Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and the bro oligarchy are writing them for their agenda, right? Which is why they're like, awesome, yes, go get Greenland. We can establish our free city praxis there. Go check it out, folks. I'm not making this up.
Oh my
And
God.
then
I tell folks, I did a whole video on the fucking, on Prospera in Honduras, which is one of their free
free city.
libertarian fucking cities. Folks, check that out on my YouTube, because I was like, wait, what is happening? Like, what's going on in these, like, these free zones, these free of regulations and governments and law? Like, what's actually happening and what are they trying to set up? Yeah.
We
Google
for those
Prospera.
we both talked about it. Go check it out. Prospera. And here's for those who don't know what we're talking about. Praxis. Praxis. Free city. Greenland. Enjoy. New fuel
Yeah.
for your night.
Dive in.
Yeah, dive in. So they're going all in, folks. But the problem is, like Danielle said, with this alcoholic's personality, overreach, reckless, no consequences, no foresight, now, and he's dying, overreach on immigration. They think that the rest of the world is with them. They're not. The rest of the world and the majority of Americans are horrified by the murder of Renee Good. They think the rest of the world is with them when it comes to imperialism. The world is horrified. Even Exxon is horrified to the point where this mob boss yesterday, remember what he said? ExxonMobil, they're going to be cut out of the deals because Exxon.
Because the CEO said that it's going to take 10 fucking years to get anything worth of anything out of Venezuela, and that he does not want to put his people and throw bad money after worse money. Like,
And he says instability. He goes, who the hell wants to go invest in a country where the foreign policy changes on a whim? That's disastrous. And he said that kind of openly. Donald Trump didn't like it. And that ExxonMobil head, whoever he was, she was absolutely on point. What we've been talking about last week, this is terrible policy. Why would anyone want to invest, right? Hey, everyone. Hey, regime and your thugs and rebel groups. I'm the United States of America. I'm a representative. Here is my tanker. Here's my infrastructure. I feel safe. I feel secure. Are you kidding me? I would never go work there. Why would you want to be kidnapped and killed, right? And you don't know what's going to happen. Maybe there'll be a regime change. Maybe this puppet government will be replaced, right? So he's just thinking common sense. And because he said it yesterday, Donald Trump, in many quotes where he defended again the murder of Renee Good, where he said, if they try to, let me say another one. We got to leave in 5, but I want to bring this up. He said also, here's said about the ACA extensions. If the ACA extensions pass the Senate, would you vote to it? I might. Yeah. He that woman was very disrespectful to law enforcement, and you heard the same noises. You saw the same crunch that I saw. You can't do that with our law enforcement. What the F is he talking about? I can't wait for the day this mother effer dies and is dragged to hell. So much of our time, our so much of our life has been drained by this man and his cruelty and his white supremacy and his minions. I can't wait till God takes him. And I want him to go like the Pharaoh. I want the water to just flood over him and all his reeks. And then the reeks, Danielle, that the last second I want them to say, oh no, we knew what was right. And I want a Democrat to sit there and say, F you, we're going to hold you accountable. But of course, they probably won't. I will say this, folks, is that if I may shamelessly promote myself, if you really want to understand the devastating economic consequences that will result from Donald Trump threatening Jerome Powell, I have the fantastic economics professor Justin Wolfers in about 5 minutes. He's going to come. You've seen him on TV, University of Michigan. He's going to break it all down: why it's bad for the economy, why it's bad for global trade, why it's bad for national security, and why it's bad for foreign policy. And then at 2 p.m., I have Ellie Leonard, who's a fantastic investigative journalist who has read every single Epstein email, talk to us about the latest Epstein scandal, which, by the way, have you noticed? They're not talking about the Epstein scandal.
No documents have come out.
And some well, some good news, I guess. It isn't just Tillis. As of 50 minutes ago, Lisa Murkowski, Republican senator from Alaska, says that Trump DOJ is engaging in coercion and must be investigated. I'm telling you, folks, never go after their money. This is massive overreach. But you all have to subscribe first and foremost to the Damn Digest. It's Danielle Moody's fantastic Substack. I've already put it up here. Subscribe to DanielleMoody.com, DanielleMoody.substack.com, and Danielle, talk to him about your YouTube.
Yes, please, friends. So a couple of things. I am running a special right now, 20% off for annual subscriptions to the Damn Digest. All of the content is free, but if you have the ability to become a paid subscriber right now, you get 20% off. So do consider doing so if you're looking to support independent media. My YouTube, my show, The Danielle Moody Show, will be live at 2 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. Toggle back and forth between Waj's fantastic interview and the Danielle Moody Show. You can also subscribe there on YouTube for free. Again, the content is free, but if you are interested in figuring out how can I support your work on a monthly basis, then you can become a paid subscriber of that channel. But because we are terrible capitalists, know that we keep our content free because critical thinking is important, knowledge is important, and that is how we build a knowledgeable, active citizenry to be a part of this collective resistance.
And folks, I have a 25% off Terrible Capitalist special. Like Danielle, everything is free. We depend on the kindness of strangers. We're like Blanche Dubois, but without the nervous breakdowns. So if you do have a few
Well,
dollars,
well,
uh, once in a while, I drink my chai. Danielle drinks some other stuff, but it's okay.
right.
It's 25% off. It's $3.75 a month. Here you go. It's the lefthook.substack.com/special. It's a forever deal. So if you could do it this month for the New
Yes.
Year, $3.75. Same with Danielle. We depend on the kind of strangers. If you don't have the money, it's okay. Become a free subscriber. Just the way the algorithm works. I know this sounds gross. It's just the way the friggin' Silicon Valley overlords have made it. So if the more you like it and subscribe, the more we get elevated in the searches, and the more you can get this information out there, and hopefully we can actually have reformation, not restoration. I'll be back in 1 minute with Justin Wolfers. We'll be back on Wednesday at 3 p.m. for a midweek democracy-ish check-in, and then Friday 12 p.m. Thank you all for watching. This is Damn Digest and the Left Hook teaming up for democracy-ish. Everyone, check out Danielle at 2 p.m. If you're around, the 2,300 people, come back in 1 minute. I have economics professor Justin Wolfers. He really breaks things down in a great way. Be kind, be informed, and please, oh please, don't be a
Don't
fascist.
be a fascist.
Thank you, Danielle. Come back safe.
Bye, Waj.